Is Conor McGregor done?
I think, yes, because of the way the UFC operates. They put you right back in tough. You know, this is not like boxing where you get slowly built up again. Conor McGregor, on his way up, was an athletic striker, fought off his back foot as a southpaw, would get under people's skin at the press conferences, would goad them in the ring to leading. He'd counter, hurt them, jump on them, knock them out, right? That's how he beat Max Holloway. At least that was a tactic that worked against Max Holloway. That was a tactic that worked against Poirier. Certainly Jose Aldo. And those guys were, for the most part, shorter than him. When he started fighting bigger, longer, taller guys with reach like Nate Diaz, it was a little more of a problem. That tactic's not as useful. When you're fighting guys who evolve over the years, as Poirier has, and get a ground game and all that, what do you do if plan A doesn't work and you go to the mat? McGregor, because he's been out of the game for so long, really at a very high level, the last 4 or 5 years, has not fought much, has not developed those things, whereas his rivals have. And what are they going to do? Like the best thing they could do now, Stephen A., is he needs a guy like Jose Aldo in a rematch, a guy he's beaten, but a shorter striker to start building up his confidence, give him time to work on his ground game. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. There's too much money at stake, putting him in more meaningful fights at this point, and he has too big an ego, I think, to try to take 2 or 3 steps back and build himself up.
Well, the thing about the UFC fight game is that I don't think there are any steps back. You step into the octagon, you putting your life on the line. And I think that for me personally, Max, I think that Conor McGregor is done. And I think he's done primarily due to that injury. The fact of the matter is that, you know, when you consider what has transpired in the game, everybody talked about how Poirier in the first fight, in the sequel rather, against him, you know, with those leg kicks to the calves and what have you, and how that was relatively new to the game. It's not that it hasn't been done before. It's that the level of focus that was placed on really kicking Conor in the calf, you didn't see that, and you don't see that too often until recently. And even when Conor got knocked out in that second fight, one of the things that I said, it wasn't that he didn't get hurt by the punches, don't get me wrong, but I was saying that he was looking to go down because his legs were shot because of what Poirier was doing to him in that sequel. Now you got the trilogy, and in the trilogy, your leg just gives out on you, and literally it was just a nasty, nasty break, no question about it, the tibia and the fibula and all of that stuff that we ultimately learned later. Conor was losing the fight. 2 of the 3 judges had him losing 10-8. He was getting mauled. It was eerily similar to the second round that he suffered at the hands of Nurmagomedov when Nurmagomedov was mauling him in that second round, although Conor survived until the 4th. In the end, what it comes down to is that of his last 4 fights, which has transpired over the last 4 or 5 years, he's lost 3 and has been stopped 3 times by Nurmagomedov, knocked out by Poirier, and now you couldn't go the distance because of this broken leg. When you consider all of that and the fact that he is Conor McGregor, and like you just pointed out, Max, because of how large he is, how he's box office, you're not going to put him in with just anybody. There comes a point in time where your level of inactivity ultimately gets counted against you as well, because you haven't been there. Meanwhile, guys like Poirier, whether it's Nurmagomedov, who's retired, Charles Oliveira, all of these guys, they're active, they're fighting, and they're getting better and better and better. Conor's not getting better. And so right. I think about that. I think about the fact that Poirier despises him. And let me say this. I interviewed Conor McGregor last Wednesday. I flew from Phoenix to Vegas to interview him, and we saw it all over ABC and ESPN and all of that stuff this weekend. I root for Conor McGregor because I think he's great for the sport. I think he's great for sports overall. But Saturday was not his shining moment to sit up there and talk about Dustin Poirier's wife, to be so disrespectful, so classless, and what have you. We may want to see this fight again, no question, because we want to see him and Poirier go at it because they clearly despise one another. But in the end, I just don't think that Conor is on that level anymore because he's not active enough. Too much has happened. And I think the better man ended up winning the last 2 fights that he had with Poirier.
Yeah, talking about somebody's family, out of bounds. Max, let me ask you this. So Saturday night, Dana White suggesting that there could be another rematch between McGregor and Poirier. Do you even want to see a 4th fight?
No, not right now. I mean, if ever, like, Conor has to show that he has chances to win the 4th fight. I didn't see that in the 3rd fight. And Dana, this is an argument he and I have had going back 20 or a bunch of years. When someone loses like that, I don't believe in immediate rematches. I think they have to show something that tells you they could actually win that rematch or it's bad for them. Conor needs time to build up his confidence in fights he can win, but also work on his game. When you go through that cycle of training and promotion and all that stuff, a lot of it is the game you're working on in the gym that you can then take to the octagon. What do I always say on this show, Stephen A? A dilemma is not just a tough choice. It's a choice between two bad options. What Conor, when he got buzzed and he saw Poirier's stand-up game, he realized, if I stand up, I'm in trouble right now. And so he kind of invited the clinch because it's also bad to be on the ground, prematurely went for a guillotine and wound up losing. He was but let's not forget, before he snapped the leg, he was getting pummeled with elbows on his back.
Well, let me say this to you. The argument makes no sense, but only because it's coming from you, who is renowned for covering the sport of boxing, who knows a thing or two about a puncher's chance. When I looked at Nurmagomedov maul Conor McGregor, what I remember is that Conor McGregor hadn't fought in a couple of years. He went into a boxing ring against Floyd Money Mayweather and still survived 4 rounds against Nurmagomedov. That's what I walked away with it from, even though I know the superior guy won because Nurmagomedov is just a powerful, powerful lightweight dude. The bottom line is Conor survived for 4 rounds, so I imagine, what if he were in shape? What if he had an opportunity to avenge that the way he avenged Nate Diaz when he went against him the second time? The same thing Saturday night. Yes, Poirier got the better of him, but I remember Conor coming out, and I thought he was relatively strong in the first 30 to 45 seconds. What happened is that obviously Poirier stunned him. Conor started the grappling. He's the one that grabbed Poirier first, got Poirier to the ground. Even though Poirier was on top of him, he had him in the guillotine, but Poirier couldn't get him he didn't let him get him sideways, which would have really put him in danger. Plus, he was sweating and whatever, and it was slippery and what have you. Couldn't really hold him there. But in the end, I found myself saying, wait a minute here. If this were the first fight, Conor would have been down, and that would have been that.